What if you could build an engineering company around a strong social mission, one that does both paid for work and powerful pro bono work? Well, in this episode of our Civil Engineering Entrepreneur series, Jenny Snape from BATTURE is going to tell us how her and her business partner are building that company. Let's jump right in. This Civil Engineering Entrepreneurs series is brought to you by BigTime. BigTime is the industry-leading PSA software providing time tracking, billing, and project management for engineering firms, with the goal of getting your business back to business. You can learn more about BigTime's PSA solution at bigtime.net. All right, now I'm excited to welcome in our podcast guest for today, Jenny Snape, managing partner at BATTURE down in New Orleans, Louisiana. Jenny, welcome to the Civil Engineering Podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So Jenny, let's start by, I'd like you to tell our listeners a little bit about kind of your backstory. How did you end up starting BATTURE? And of course, tell us about the firm as well.
Okay. Well, my backstory, I grew up in Montana, and I had this great opportunity when I was in high school to do like a school to work program 1 day a week in my second semester of junior and senior year. So my junior year, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and they put me at an engineering company just because I really enjoyed math. So they put me at a civil engineering firm, and that firm focused mostly on transportation and airport design. And I just really fell in love with it. So my senior year, I went to a different engineering firm who was a little bit more on the development side, like roads and lots and stuff like that. So worked for them, and then actually went back and worked for them in college every summer. They were really great mentors and gave me a lot of great opportunities. So, but after high school, I went to New Orleans for college, and I went to Tulane and got my civil engineering degree there. And then I left New Orleans right after school, decided I didn't want to go the grad school route, and went straight to work in Arizona. I worked in Arizona for land development companies for about 5 years until the housing market crashed. And then the housing market crashed, closed the company that I worked for there. And so I moved back to New Orleans, where I still had some great connections, and worked for a small firm here where I got to know a lot of people in the industry over the next 5 years. I was involved in an organization called Engineers Without Borders, and through that organization got to meet Bob Mora, who then will be my future business partner, is now my future business partner. Is now my current business partner, sorry. And, we just started talking and realized that we had a lot of complementary skill sets, talked a lot about how we imagined a company could be. Bob had at that time already started his own firm. So it was just him and another person for the first couple of years in 2014. And then I joined him in 2016 as a managing partner for BATTURE, and we've just been growing the company from there. So we started with like 3 people then, and now we're up to 21 amazing people at the company.
Wow. That's amazing. And I've known Bob. I've had the pleasure of knowing Bob for a long time. He's a great guy, a great engineer. He also has a background in surveying as well. Mm-hmm. And I think that's been really helpful, I know, for him in his career and for the company. And Bob actually was on, for those of you that didn't hear the episode, you can go back and check out episode number 78, which is back in 2018. The title of the episode is a deep conversation on the philosophy behind building a civil engineering firm. And I know Bob's wanted to do this for a long time, and he obviously was lucky to be able to find you, Jenny, and you've done a great job together building BATTURE. But let's start with a mission for a minute, because, a lot of companies have missions and vision statements and those types of things. And for some companies, they really utilize those to build everything around. They really take that to heart. Other companies, I feel like it's kind of something to put on their website more or less. And so, it's something that's important. But what's interesting about BATTURE that I've always admired is that you have what you describe on your website as a social mission that's really focused around giving back to the community of New Orleans. And, I've always been kind of fascinated about that. When you go to your website, batture-eng.com, the first thing you see is building a better future for New Orleans. And then you have a whole thing about your social mission. Just talk about that. I mean, I know you and Bob met through Engineers Without Borders, which in itself, if you're not familiar with EWB, it's a great organization that helps to improve civilization effectively all over the world. But talk about the social mission and the whole idea behind the company of giving back.
Yeah, like you said about Engineers Without Borders, our local chapter here in New Orleans is a little unique. We do some international work, but a lot of our work is focused on New Orleans itself because New Orleans has certain challenges that are there's some really amazing like nonprofit organizations here that help support those challenges that we have, and a lot of them just need a little bit of engineering help, so or some construction help. So in addition to like international work with EWB here, we do a significant amount of local work, and I think that's both where that's where our passion started with the social mission behind with a for-profit company, but having sort of a nonprofit mentality, I guess, with helping people and helping our community and helping our society. We wanted to write the mission statement and the values and the vision statement to really help us focus and get our thoughts in place around what we wanted to see and how we wanted to help New Orleans. We actually wrote them as part of a growth program, so it was nice to be like told that we should write it, because at first I kind of thought it was a little bit of a cheesy thing to sit down and write a mission and vision statement, but I was really glad that we did it, and it helped us work with each other and talk through our ideas of what we wanted to see the company do, and what values that we really valued in people and in ourselves. And so the process was great. I think the outcome was great. And like I mentioned before, we added 6 value statements to go with it. I don't think that they're on the website, but
that's great.
That we wanted to use internally to keep our focus.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the nice thing about what I think is valuable about a mission and vision statements are they're valuable if they're used to set like the strategic direction of the firm. And it helps you when you're making decisions, you reflect back on them. Because truly, to me, if it's your mission, if it's really the mission of the company and your vision for where the company is going, then you should really make your decisions based around them. And it certainly sounds like you're doing that, which is great. And I want to read the first paragraph of the social mission on the website, just for our listeners that aren't familiar with the company. And it says, Batture was founded on a shared desire to give back to the city. The owners of Batture, Bob Mora and Jenny Snape, first met while working with the New Orleans chapter of Engineers Without Borders. Today, community work is an integral part of our philosophy, where paid projects and pro bono projects are held with equal importance and priority. It's just what we do. It's just who we are. So talk about that, because I know, from knowing Bob and having some conversations with Bob in the past, that the pro bono side of your business is important to both of you. Like you said, just as important as the kind of some of the private projects. Talk about that. How did that happen?
Yeah, it happened a little bit out of, both of us were volunteering for different organizations, and even in nonprofit organizations, there's a little bit of a bureaucracy, right? So Engineers Without Borders would get, given some of these project opportunities, but there was a timeline that couldn't be met within the process of that organization. So Batture usually takes on projects if they have a shorter timeline and can't go through the Engineers Without Borders process. So we work with a nonprofit who needs a new shed built, or like a new parking lot designed for their farmers market, or has a stormwater management issue, or a structural issue, and we take those in. We don't have like a formal process for we don't have like a cap on the number of projects we can do, pro bono projects we can do. We really try to balance them. We don't expect our employees to do those hours outside of the office. We expect them to do that within their 40 hours a week of work. So trying to balance it is a little challenging sometimes, because the scope of pro bono projects is sometimes not clearly defined. We sometimes have to sit down with an owner and help them define the scope as part of the process. But we think it's fun and it's challenging, and we're all just have a lot of pride for the outcome of it. We can see a local group really succeed once they have that in place, once they have just a little bit of help. So
Sure. Yeah. So it's kind of like you're acting almost like a nonprofit, but you're faster and you can adapt maybe quicker. And so you're able to help with some projects that they can't handle because of some of their limitations, in a sense.
yeah, exactly. So that's generally how the projects come in to Batture through that sort of process.
That's great. And, it is great because I think from a culture perspective, in terms of your company, it speaks to a culture where, you're building a culture where everybody there is basically living out your mission, which is kind of building a better New Orleans, whether it's for private projects or whether it's pro bono projects, which to me is great. And I'm sure what a lot of people are thinking right now, especially maybe civil engineering business owners, is how the heck are they able to do pro bono projects and still, survive in terms of having people work on those hours. But I would imagine it comes down to just being really smart about your finances and the way you run your business.
Yeah. Like I said, we don't have a formal process for deciding when we can take on more pro bono projects, but because our employees are also dedicated to that same mission, it really helps because they don't see a difference in the work. We can manage a difference in the work on the financial side, but they don't work on it differently from the way that they would work on a for-profit project. A lot of our employees we've gotten through our relationships with Engineers Without Borders, we just know them from that organization. So a lot of us have that same mentality, and it really drives us.
Yeah, it's great. It's that is your culture, and you have people in that mindset already that kind of come on board there, which is, I'm sure, helpful to keep that going. So you mentioned your employees, and we know people are a critical component of building a business, especially in the world of civil engineering, which is a very, people-oriented profession. Talk about the importance of the people in your company and, how you find, develop, and retain people at Batture.
Sure. Like you said, employees really are our biggest asset. Besides our office building, they're our only asset. So, so we really try to find the right people. We don't necessarily go out with a job description and try to find any person that will just fill a job description. We generally have identified our employees through existing relationships, people that we've worked with in the past, people that we know would be a cultural fit for the company, and almost find positions for them or find the fit for them. We provide a lot of different services, structural engineering, civil engineering, landscape architecture, surveying. So most of the people we know in the engineering world fit within one of those sort of boxes. And we kind of have a list of people that we want to work with. And when an opportunity comes available that, they might be available, we try to hire them and find a place for them at the company. We've been pretty successful in that. We have a great group of employees, so it's worked pretty well for us. And then as far as development of employees, we've had sort of informal mentorship program in the past, and I think that we really just talked about a lot of these things last week in a meeting, but we're in the process of developing a much more formal mentorship plan. We want to, even if it involves bringing in some mentors that are retired engineers from other companies and to mentor some of our people. We think it's really important to employee development. And then on the technical side, getting people some classes or whatever that they need to reach their goals as well. Because, we want people to be happy with what they're doing. We want to help them meet their goals so that they can help us, meet our goals as a company. And, I think just like caring about our employees, and we have pretty creative benefits, I think, that we give the employees, and we just try to make the whole company culture feel fun, and that's really helped us with retention, I'd say.
That's great. I mean, I really love that approach in terms of just hiring people that you think would fit the company well. I mean, There's a great quote. I think it might be from Peter Drucker. I'll have to confirm it, but culture eats strategy for lunch, which is true. I mean, and a lot of times you see this like in sports where a team might be looking to bring in a player because, he or she fits the team, they fit the culture, they fit like how the team plays together, as opposed to just saying like, we have a position open, we're going to find someone for that specific position. But, you don't really hear it that often in the world of engineering or civil engineering, where you say, we have an eye on a couple of people that we think might fit in good here. And if things work, we'll try to, bring them onto the team. And so, I've always liked that about Batcher. And, I've had some conversations with Bob about that in the past. And I think it's just a really smart move, but it just seems like a lot of people are reactive and they have a hole. They feel like they need to fill it quickly and they maybe make a hire quickly and, without thinking through it. So it's really good to hear you say that. And, and I can see how that has benefited you certainly. And I'm sure will continue to benefit you. Now, as the company grows, of course, ultimately there becomes more and more seats in the company. When you start a business or when a business is small, it may be the same person that's doing a lot of different things, doing marketing, doing business development. But of course, as time goes on, you're going to need to fill these different roles. So how do you kind of ensure at Batcher that you have the right people kind of in the right seats doing what they do best? How does that look like right now? I know you're still, not huge right now, but still, you're still probably making some of those decisions.
Yeah. So, making sure the company grows sustainably and effectively has really been a constant challenge for us and something that we're trying to make sure we keep a hold of. We don't want to grow too fast. And like you said, we want to make sure that we get people into the right roles, at the right time. So all of our employees have taken strengths tests. We kind of use the strengths similarly to the mission and vision, where we can tie a lot of things back to everybody's strengths. And then, so in addition to just their strengths, we have just a spreadsheet. We have a knowledge of everybody's technical skills so that we can see where people would fit within, different roles as they come up. We want to talk with all of our employees about what their goals are as well, because I don't want to put somebody in some sort of role that they're not going to enjoy, that they're not interested in. Somebody's not interested in business development, so maybe I don't want to put them into that role. So we want to keep track of our employees' goals along with that. We've tried to fill some of those roles just as we've expanded and hired those people that we've identified, and then maybe they have like a little skill that we can put in one area. But we recently decided that we needed to not just be one big group. We were just Batcher before. We didn't have departments. And so we kind of wanted to avoid having departments. We wanted everybody to be this malleable group of people who could do whatever. But, as we've gotten to this point, like about a year ago, we decided that it was time to split up into departments so that we could grow more sustainably. We could grow more in a more controlled manner. And we hired and brought in 2 department managers and then an operations manager to help us just kind of keep everything growing the right way. We didn't want to grow too fast. We didn't want to grow without having some systems in place to manage it. So we identified this last year as the time. Of course, we decided this right before COVID. So now, people have department managers now that they've only met one time in person. So,
Right.
Hopefully that'll get better as this is getting better. But
For sure. So it sounds like it's a lot of communication between you, Bob, the leadership, constantly, reassessing where people are people in the right seats, what are their skill sets, and, just making decisions on a kind of a rolling basis. I mean, I think the thing that's interesting to me, and we'll have to see how things progress, and maybe we'll have you back on, in another year or so, but when there's a company like Batcher that I would say is really progressive, you have a great social mission, you're real creative with your staff, and you really built a great culture. I think sometimes maintaining all of those things as you grow becomes very challenging because, like you said, you wanted to just not have departments, and then you realize you kind of need departments. And so it'll be interesting to kind of watch, I think, Batcher grow and see how, you, Bob, the leadership kind of manage all that. And I'm confident you'll do a great job because, I know that both of you work really well together. But just talk about it for a minute from your perspective, Jenny. you're an engineer, you're a successful engineer, you are a successful business owner, but you're building what I would say is a civil engineering company that, I wouldn't say that it looks like the typical civil engineering company in terms of the things you do, the social mission, the pro bono projects, the creativity that you have involved there. New Orleans is certainly a very unique community in the US, and you're very involved in that in many levels. So, how do you navigate this on a daily basis? Meaning that, you know, you're not just going to work every day to do some plans and specifications by any stretch. You have a lot of stuff you're thinking about, you're navigating, you're building a business, which is, you're using entrepreneurial skills. How do you find that on a day-to-day basis?
It's every day is different. I'll tell you that. So it's a challenge. And like you said in the beginning, like not losing focus of our mission and vision is in our culture is something that's important to us. And so, we have a lot of discussions around it, and we try to make sure that Bob and I, as we're growing, have been trying to step back a little bit so that from the day-to-day engineering work and be more in a mentorship role and be more in a, quality control role and more in that space where we can focus on what to do within the company to keep the culture there. And, and we don't want to lose focus of it. When we like hire 4 people at a time, it was a little bit of a concern, it was just like, oh man, how do we get everybody to know what we want our culture to look like, especially when we're virtual. And, we've been trying to come up with some creative ways to instill culture while still being safe and, keeping the office closed. So it's definitely been a challenge, but I think that I'm encouraged, I guess. I feel encouraged by how our employees have succeeded during this time. And I think when we're getting back into the office and everybody's able to talk back and forth and have that fun, because fun is a part of our culture, I think that we'll really see everybody thrive.
That's great. Yeah. And really kind of, really what I was getting at, which is kind of exactly what you just said, was when you build a company like this, it takes a lot of time and effort just to focus on the culture part of it, for the leadership, really. I mean, you have to be dedicated to the culture. You need to put a lot of time and effort into it. You need to get creative as the company grows to make sure that that culture can kind of stick and flex a little bit here and there as it needs to. So it's great to see you do that. One last question I have for you, and then we'll jump into we'll put Jenny on the civil engineering hot seat in a few minutes. And I don't think Bob will mind me asking this question, but are you as calm as he is? Because he's always so calm, he seems.
Oh, man. I would probably consider myself calmer than him.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, every time I seem to talk to him, I know how successful Batture is, and I know how many things you both have going on there. And so when I talk to him, he seems always so reserved even. And if you listen to the last podcast episode, our listeners, you'll kind of get a feel for Bob and how calm and reserved he is. And if you're more reserved, then that's even more impressive to me not impressive, but you both seem very laid back, yet you're growing such a great company here that seems to be growing at a relatively fast clip, and you seem to be able to stay so calm and collected through the process. So I just commend you both on that, because it seems that you're really focused on your mission of building this company in a very positive way, and it's great. I really commend you on that.
Thank you. It takes a good group of employees that we can trust, to be able to stay calm.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. And again, that goes back to your like you said, your hiring strategy, which is finding just the right people, bringing in the right people that align with the values of the company. So that's great. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to come back and we're going to wrap this one up by putting Jenny on the civil engineering hot seat. We'll be right back. All right, we're back with Jenny Snape from BATTURE Engineering down in New Orleans. And Jenny, it's time to go on the civil engineering hot seat. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Are there any specific rituals that you practice every day? For example, do you have a specific morning routine or a lunchtime routine, or just something that you do consistently on a daily basis that helps contribute to your success?
I don't really have like a morning routine or anything. And since I've been working from home, it's been a little different. I usually wake up and check my email and try to get through emails that may have come in overnight, because now everybody's working at night. So
Yeah.
so that's changed things a little bit. But I'd say one of my routines that I like to do, and it's just sort of a, it's not really a routine, but it's just a goal, is I love to be able to get through my inbox and try to at least respond to every email during the day, even if it's just a response that says, I'll get to this tomorrow.
That's great. No, you try to be responsive, which I do think is important, especially, someone who probably is, well, you are a leader of a firm, but you're probably client facing and talking to other people that, need to hear from you and want to hear from you. So that's great. All right. So next one, what is one book that you might recommend to engineers, or just one book in general that you found to be extremely helpful in your professional or personal development efforts?
I don't read a lot of management books or anything, but I really like Larry McMurtry, my favorite author. And I just really like Westerns, mainly because, they're like the engineers of the Wild West. They're out there solving their challenges that they have in daily life out, and with very few tools, and just the grit of themselves.
That's great. And in fact, I've found that reading novels is really relaxing, actually. And I actually read a book called Sleep Smarter, which was a good book. And one of the strategies that they recommended was reading novels in the evening before you go to sleep, because it can really help you to wind down. It's almost like watching TV, but without the screen time, kind of without the stimulation. And your brain doesn't really have to think. You're just reading a story. So I found that to be helpful. So I think novels is a great recommendation. All right, next one. Thinking back on some of your managers of the past, maybe you can picture your favorite manager or managers, and you don't need to specifically name anyone, but what was it about these managers that made them your favorite? What skills, what characteristics about them that you really liked?
Yeah, so some of my favorite mentors and managers have been people who've just taken the time to sit down and have a conversation, whether it's through a technical question or just a question about succeeding in engineering career. I think that face-to-face time is really important, and not seeming, they might have been really, really busy, but they took the time and didn't seem impatient with questions. And
That's
I think
great.
that patience and attention is really what makes it.
That's great. I can't tell you how many people have said that. This is episode 168 of the podcast, and I want to say that, at least probably 50 to 75 people have answered that question in exactly that way. My manager listened to me, they gave me their time, they gave me their attention. And it really tells you a lot when you start to see a pattern like that around, what people remember about their favorite managers, really, truly. So I always like hearing that as an answer, because it's just reinforces for all of our listeners, whether you're a manager or aspiring manager, that's, I think, really valuable information that I hope you can use in your management efforts. All right, Jenny, I've got one final question for you. We call it the civil engineering career elevator advice question. If you were to get into an elevator with a civil engineer and had about 30 to 40 seconds with him or her, and you had to give some career advice in that short period of time, what would your advice be?
Well, if it was an aspiring civil engineer, I would say my advice would be to get internships. I learned a lot more in internships than I think I did in college. So that would be my advice for a college student. I would say for a civil engineer, I think getting field experience and talking to contractors and getting to know what's constructible. I think that's sometimes a gap with civil engineers, is constructability knowledge, and just having those conversations with the contractor, you can really learn a lot.
That's great. Yeah. I think you hit it on the head in terms of field experience. That's worth like so much in terms of the development of a civil engineer. I started out in the field as a surveyor myself, and I hated it. I was like, wow, is this engineering? I'm in the woods. I'm getting poison ivy. I'm getting kind of bitten up out here. But what I really learned was about how projects really get built. And when you know how projects get built, when you go back and you have to design them on paper, you have a much better, more practical understanding of what is going on out there after you've done the work. And that can really inform you quite a bit. So I think that's a really great piece of advice. is, and really an internship effectively is the same thing. You're getting some of that work or some of that site kind of experience in college or university, which is even better, because the earlier you start that process, the better. So Jenny Snape, Bachelor Engineering, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and spending some time with us. I know, you and Bob are doing a tremendous job in building a company that is a special company for sure in the civil engineering community. And, it was a pleasure for us to have you on the podcast and talk a little bit about it.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Civil Engineering Podcast on YouTube, produced by the Engineering Management Institute. We're always looking for new ways to help engineers become effective managers and leaders. You can view all of our content on our website at engineeringmanagementinstitute.org, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel here for our weekly videos. Until next time, please continue to engineer your own success.